Jeremy will start with the next question. If anybody in the back just came in, there are seats up here. Don't need to stand. All right. What are your ideas for improving police community relations in Minneapolis, and how will you work to implement and sustain them?
I really get this question first, huh?
Yes.
So when I talk to my neighbors, what I hear a lot about the slow response time by police, and I hear about the lack of attention to property crimes. At the same time, our police force killed an unarmed black man, Jamar Clark. Something is wrong. We need to change that right now. When I worked to abolish the death penalty, I did so because I saw a broken system, and for me, I work on the part that's broken first, the part that is the worst. And we were successful, not because I'm really charming and I convinced cops that they didn't need the death penalty. Half of that is not true. The cops did not, they still believe in the death penalty. But it was hard. It was really hard. We had to talk to cops that saw me just as a community activist that wanted to abolish the death penalty. That was pretty accurate. But after a while, we started to really listen. And the truth is, people don't listen to cops. If you sit down and talk about what's wrong with the system and truly listen, they will tell you. And it took a long time to build that relationship, but we were able to come up with a solution that they saw themselves as a part of. We were able to abolish the death penalty, take the money that was saved, and then put that into training for law enforcement. That's exactly what we need to do now. We need to listen to both sides. We need to make sure the community that's been telling us that there's a problem, that we listen to them. And then we also make a safe space for police to be able to find out what is actually wrong. How would you police yourself? Thank you very much.
Erica.
So let's first recognize that public safety needs are different in different parts of the city. And the best way to improve police community relations is to let our own communities determine what's needed for public safety. Our police should be community-oriented, service-oriented, and focused on de-escalation tactics. We need culture change in the police department. It's a long-term project, I understand. I support the initiatives that are currently underway to get at that culture change, which includes implicit bias training, de-escalation training, and expanding our community service officer recruitment in an effort to diversify the police force. We should also be investing in restorative justice practices. Requiring police to carry their own liability insurance will change their willingness to accept bad behavior from problem officers really quickly. That puts the burden of settling lawsuits incurred by a small number of officers back on the police union and not on taxpayers to the tune of $2 to $3 million every year. Property taxes in Ward 11 are disproportionately high, so we are paying for problem officers in downtown and North Minneapolis. As a person of color, simply having more police around doesn't make me feel safer necessarily, especially when the police union refuses to take responsibility for problem officers. We all need to think about public safety beyond just police. We should be investing in dispatching more appropriate first responders, if that's social workers, youth workers, mental health professionals. Some of these already exist. They deserve more funding, and I'd rather pay 3 social workers instead of 2 police officers.
The question, I think, is great, and it might be worth repeating before we start the clock. Is that okay?
Oh, sure. What are your ideas for improving police community relations in Minneapolis, and how will you work to implement and sustain them?
Right. That's why I really wanted to focus on, there's 2 levels of that question that's really important. One are the ideas to improve the relationships. The other one is about how to make them sustainable. Implement, sustainable. I think we are at a transformative time across the country, but especially here in the city of Minneapolis, where it requires Minneapolis solutions for Minneapolis problems. I'm very excited, actually, about some of the things that Erica just outlined that's in process in this last 4 years. This mayor and this council has been very, very deliberate about what we're trying to accomplish through the police department. And I'm a big supporter of Chief Harto and her. We're in the middle of it. We're in MPD 2.0. And in the midst of that very real, very long-term strategic vision for the council and the police chief, it's really rooted in community engagement and the community policing strategies. She's just been recognized as a national leader in this. This is something that her Chiefs Association nationwide and the Mayor's Association and our governor have all been looking to the city of Minneapolis for ideas. Now, we certainly faced a tragic shooting with Jamar Clark. But I think the great strength was how we took that on ourselves and we asked for an outside expert from the DOJ to come in. And we learned from that process. It takes courage to ask for that, and it sure takes courage on how to implement some of those changes. And some of the opportunities to be sustainable on that would be some of our hiring practices that have been implemented, and we're making a big change on who we're recruiting as officers and how we're having them look like and represent the communities that they live in. Thanks very much.